Welcome to the final webinar of the 2024 CSE Development in Action webinar series. My name is Evangeline. I'm the Alumni Engagement Officer with the CSE Alumni team. And today I am pleased to welcome a Commonwealth Scholar, um, Lieutenant Commander Bidisha Pandey. If we can please have the slides back on the screen. Thank you so
Sorry.
much. No worries. So today's webinar will be on from Indian Navy to international trade, Commonwealth scholarships enabling career transitions. And presenting this webinar will be Bidisha, who is a 2021 Commonwealth Shared Scholar from India. She completed her MSc in Prosperity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University College London. And I'm not going to say a lot about Bidisha because today's webinar she will be talking about her previous career and how the scholarship enabled her to move into a completely different career post scholarship. Um, but just a bit of introduction. Bidisha is currently the Director of Trade and Investment at the Australian Trade and Investment Commission in New Delhi in India. She presently facilitates bilateral trade between India and Australia in the aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and space sector. She's also the diversity and inclusion co-lead for Austrade, South Pacific region, South Asia region. And of course, previously she has served in the Indian Navy, and she will be talking about her experience within the Indian Navy and her motivation to transition to international trade. So, without any further ado, I would now like to welcome Bidisha to begin her presentation and talk to us about her scholarship journey and her journey to transition between two different sectors.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Eva, for that lovely introduction. I'm really grateful to CSE for this wonderful opportunity. So, as a Commonwealth scholar in the UK, I remember I used to get these mails about development and action webinars, and I always used to look forward to listening to them. I never thought that after 2 years, I'll be here and I'll be sharing my experiences with all the Commonwealth scholars and alumni. So I'm really honored to be here and looking forward to sharing my experiences with all of you. Just as Eva mentioned, I retired from the Indian Navy in 2021 as a lieutenant commander. I'm from the logistics cadre of the Indian Navy, which basically deals with supply chain, and we'll get deeper into it as I go through my slides. I pursued masters in prosperity, innovation, and entrepreneurship at UCL, and currently I'm at Austrade and I facilitate bilateral trade in aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and space domains. The purpose of this presentation is basically to motivate all of you and empower all of you to take those necessary steps and navigate career transition pathways, which can be very complicated at times. I have tried to keep this presentation very sector agnostic so that you can get those practical tips and tricks which you can implement no matter what sector you come from. With that, I think I'll go to the next slide. A brief overview of the webinar today. The first part would be about the Naval Foundation, that is my experiences in the Indian Navy and how these experiences have shaped me as an individual and how these experiences have formed my core values as an individual. The second uh, phase is Commonwealth Bridge. So this is about my time in the UK, how I got exposed to those new experiences, and then how that was transformative for me. The trade transition is about how I used my values and the knowledge that I gained during my time in the Navy, plus the exposure that I got during my time in the UK, and how do I deliver objectives at Austrade through a combination of those two things. Uh, Diversity, equity, and inclusion, though, is not my core role, but somehow, since my time in the Navy, to my time at UCL and then today at Austrade. I think that is one domain that I've been passionate about, and therefore it has always been there as a secondary role with whatever I've pursued. I've also put that in the presentation to highlight that if you're passionate about something, keep doing that irrespective of what your main role is. And I'll show you how many doors it opened for me when I kept doing things that I was interested in addition to my primary or core role. And in the end, of course, I will speak about the challenges that I faced in this complete journey and what are my key learnings. And hopefully that would help you do better with career transitions in your life. And of course, looking forward to answering your questions at the end of the session. So, this picture actually encapsulates 14 years of my life. The first phase from 2011 to 2021 is as a naval officer. So, I joined the Navy right after engineering. So, I'm a BTech graduate in electronics and telecommunication. And right after that, I appeared for the naval entrance interview. And then I kind of cleared it, joined the Indian Navy, joined the logistics cadre, which deals mostly with procurement and supply chain of machinery and spare parts for ships, submarines, aircrafts. So that was my primary duty. But in addition to that, in armed forces, you do a variety of things in addition to your core role. So I got an opportunity to do a lot of other things in addition to just that procurement role. And I'll get into that in the next slide. In my ninth year of service, I knew that I had to undergo a career transition. I was a short service commissioned officer, so career transition was not a choice. I knew that I'll have to leave service either at the end of 10 years or 14 years, and I chose to make that transition at the end of 10 years. So I started researching courses. Usually, veterans from armed forces go into careers which involve security or safety, operations, or administration, right? Those are the general careers where veterans are seen. But I did not want to pursue that. I wanted to do something different. I was interested in social entrepreneurship. I was interested in DNI. And therefore, I started looking for courses. And that is where I found MSc Prosperity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Now, this was one course where both. Uh, are you able to see the notifications as well? I just wanted to check, Eva. Then probably I'll.
Um, no,
No?
I can't. It's
Okay,
it's just
sorry.
your PPT
Okay,
slide. Yeah.
sorry. Um, so yeah, going ahead with MSc. So I pursued MSc Prosperity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship at UCL, and it was a good combination of social science and business. It ticked all the boxes. Like those were the two areas I was deeply interested in. And then I applied for the Commonwealth Scholarship. Luckily got the scholarship, got through UCL. It is a fantastic university. The kind of exposure that I got was phenomenal. From there, I went on to join Austrade in October 22. Sorry, that would be October 22, because September 21 to September 22 was my time in the UK, and then I came back and I joined Austrade. Austrade is Australian government's trade and promotion agency. So at Austrade, we facilitate bilateral trade. So Austrade South Asia basically looks after Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka. And similarly, we have Austrade Europe, we have Austrade America, Austrade Southeast Asia, which is different. So the headquarters is in Canberra, and then we are the locally employed staff members that help sort of the Australian government to work with other governments. So my role here as an expert of defense, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and space sectors in India is to help bilateral ties between the two nations, help develop those ties. So coming to the beginning of things, which was the Naval Foundation, I joined the Navy right after engineering, and there are some certain core values that I inculcated during my time in service, which have stayed with me through and through, and those qualities have really helped me succeed wherever I stepped into in life. And I would like to talk about those things. Firstly, getting into the Navy itself is a very different procedure as compared to other services. And I'm talking about the Indian Navy here. So we go through a 5-day process of service selection board. It is not like a typical GRE or GMAT, right? Where you prepare the exam and then you appear for the exam. You don't even, it's not even like an essay or not one standard process. But we usually are kept like we are together, all the participants or all the people who want to get selected, who come for that entrance procedure, they are kept together in a dormitory. We are staying together for 5 days. We are tested on psychological skills, on physical aptitude, on there are a lot of things which we are tested on. There are activities, group activities, when you are supposed to lead a group of strangers who are just there with you for the same entrance exam, and you have to get tasks done. So I was very sure that this whole process is called service selection board, and SSB happens over a period of 5 days. So there's no way to ensure that you will crack SSB. It is more of a personality fit test. So when I went for the exam, when I went for this assessment, and then I was able to clear it and I was selected for the forces, I knew that I'm cut out for this, and I was very happy to join the forces. I think one thing that I learned from that selection process itself was the courage to take on things. So because there was this physical obstacle race there, and I was not actually a very sporty person when I went for the service selection board, and I was pretty apprehensive about doing and completing all the tasks. But what I realized was that these people were mainly looking for individuals who had the courage to take on the tasks. Completion actually did not matter. So whoever made it had that one common quality, that we could take risks, and we had that courage to take on the task, even though we whether we failed or succeeded actually did not make a difference. So I think that was the starting point. I was very impressed with it, and therefore I thought that this is the perfect career which would be the foundation of my future career path. Next was the Naval Academy. Of course, like any other military academy, the military academies actually are meant to be the worst places, because they will subject you to the worst possible circumstances to make you mentally and physically tough. So at the Naval Academy, you barely have time to eat. You are like running from one class to another. You are doing everything from boxing to horse riding to probably uh, PT, the parade, swimming, everything. They would fit in so many things into your routine. And probably before joining the academy, if somebody would have asked me, Vidisha, would you be able to do all of this together in one day? I would have said no, because it is practically, it is humanly impossible. I think that was my mindset before joining the Navy. But after I completed the training, after that 1 year, there is this passing out parade which happens at the end of the year. So when that was happening, I actually felt like a superhero. I was so mentally tough by that time that I thought I could undertake anything in life. I still hold that very close to my heart. Even today, I think I'm not afraid of taking risks, of changing trajectories, because I believe if you put your mind to it, you can achieve whatever you want. And I think I'm really grateful to Navy for that one quality that it has imbibed in me. The next thing which I learned in the Navy was leadership in action. So there are various other activities in addition to your core role when you join the armed forces. Marching and leading a contingent is one of them. The photograph that you see on this slide is of me leading the naval marching contingent on Republic Day parade during 2014 Republic Day parade celebrations. So in India, Republic Day parade is happens on every 26th January, where India celebrates its Republic Day, and then there are these marching contingents. It is shown live on TV. There are thousands of people cheering on you. It's a very big deal for any armed forces officer to lead a contingent on Republic Day parade during that celebration. And I think this was a dream come true for me. The learning from there was during that parade, when you are leading those 144 men who are marching behind you, I think you have to give your best shot. There is no other way of leading. Leading has to be through action, leading has to be through example. You cannot just ask them to do their best while you do not give your best to what you do. I think that was again another thing that I learned from the forces, that whichever team you lead, I think you need to be the best person. You need to be equally involved. You need to actually take responsibility for things. And that is how the whole teamwork shapes up. Like while we do the parade and while it is shown on the TV, that perfect synchronous march happens after lot of hard work, lot of motivation. So I think that importance of teamwork to put up a show is also equally important. And then Sailing was another activity that I undertook while my time in the services. I participated in the Cape to Rio International Transatlantic Ocean Sailing Expedition. And I remember I was with five other officers on board INSV Madei. It's a sailboat, a 17-meter sailboat. We sailed from Cape Town to Goa. We covered 5,000 nautical miles in around 33 days, and it was an adventure of a lifetime. Again, I did not know ocean sailing. This was in my sixth or seventh year of service. But I ventured into it. I again put myself out of my comfort zone, and that further strengthened me from within. I think that was another activity which sort of increased my mental stamina and physical stamina to undertake new projects or new things in life. Uh, when I talk about responsibilities and competencies, in Navy we do not have a separate HR department. Like if there is a team of 50 people with me, I am supposed to look after their well-being. I am supposed to know what is happening in their families. I just can't assign tasks and leave it to them. I will be involved in each and everything. So that is also something that came from the forces, that ownership and kind of bonding between officers and taking care of your staff. That also comes from the Navy. And I think that has also been very helpful in my journey so far. So that's about the naval part. Coming to the Commonwealth Bridge, this was really a transformative opportunity for me because everything changed when I moved to UK. Like I come from a naval environment, 10 years in service, where everybody is wearing the same uniform. Uniformity is very important in armed forces, and then there is so much of hierarchy. Like there is a process to everything. Usually there are strict orders which are passed down, and that is how armed forces operate. There is no right or wrong in this, but this is how armed forces operate, that you will have order, you will have hierarchy. If you want to raise a question, it will go through a certain channel. Usually people will expect you to be similar, like you will be dressed in one uniform. There's a lot of stress on discipline, on punctuality. So it's a very different environment. Coming from there to UCL, which is completely international and so diverse in itself, like the people come from different parts of the world, they have their own diverse perspectives on everything. It really opened me to a lot of new things. Like there were a lot of things that I did not know about. I realized that when I came to UCL. Also, the ability to question the professor. If somebody is teaching you and if you have an opinion which is contradictory, you should be able to question it. That did not come very naturally to me because I come from an armed forces background. So probably the system from where I come, we are supposed to listen first and then there is a channel through which you take it up but not confront. So that completely changed at UCL. Like I gained confidence in that particular aspect of questioning things, questioning everything, whether this is really right or wrong, logically applying myself and testing every argument. I think that was very important. Again, academic growth. 10 years into the service, I had not taken up any studies there. Like there's a lot of practical exposure, but from the study perspective, I had not really studied. I had zero exposure to academic writing. I remember when I undertook the first assignment at UCL, I scored somewhere in my 60s, and I was really disheartened because I had put in a good effort, and I've been a good student throughout my life. And I thought, I don't know where am I going wrong in this assignment. And I actually spoke to my professor and told her that I come from an armed forces background and my writing is not academic writing because I come from a government background completely. And I actually had to work very hard on that part during my time at UCL, but I did uh, get a distinction when I got during my graduation. So I think that paid off later. But then again, that was a very steep learning curve for me, that academic writing and reading of research papers. Because of the background that I came from and because of the gap, because there was a 10-year work gap between my bachelor's and my master's. Uh, the third part was international exposure and network. I think I capitalized on all the networks. Like Commonwealth was one of them. Commonwealth organized these wonderful events like CSC Connect and Collaborate. And then there was one event at FCDO during the end of the program. There were webinars like this. So again, connecting with Commonwealth scholars through the CSC platform. Then came the UCL networking events. There were a lot of events that UCL organized. During that time, of course, we were just coming out of COVID, and the learning was sort of happening in a hybrid format, but that did not mean that I did not meet my classmates. So, again, that was another platform for networking. And I was staying at Good Enough College in London, which is a postgraduate community. Again, there was a good network. Lot of people there from diverse backgrounds, again a different network altogether. So I tried to capitalize on all of those opportunities, and I did actually felt that I did not have enough time to network. I would have made many more friends and I would have done many more things because there was so much to do during that 1 year. But I was really happy and I was making the most of my time, and that network is now really strong. And one quick tip here is whoever I met, whoever I discussed things with, I connected with them on LinkedIn like immediately after. So today I can proudly say that if I go to any industry, any sector, I would find a common link. And this is a habit that I have inculcated, that if I meet someone and I network and I speak to that person, I make it a point to go back and sort of find that person on LinkedIn and send a text message, make a network there so that that person remains in touch. Uh, that is how you make networks work for yourself, and that actually helped me in the longer run. So that is one quick tip that I wanted to share with everyone. Cross sectoral learning, again, I had electives such as strategic project management and urban futures alongside the prosperity, innovation, and entrepreneurship core subjects. So there was social science, there was entrepreneurship, and then I picked up these two subjects. Now, these choices were also very strategic. I knew that I would have to go back to industry after my study period, and that is why strategic project management is a very sector agnostic subject. I knew that whichever role I go into, probably this is one subject which would help me in getting my next role. So that is how I selected that. Urban futures again was more about urban planning. I did not have a background in urban planning, but I knew that India is going in a direction where a lot of urban planning is being done, where smart cities are being planned, and that is how I made that selection. So my selection of electives was very much aligned with my end goal, like because my end goal was industry and working with Indian government sector or entrepreneurship sector, and that is how I picked up. So there was a lot of cross sectoral learning across social science, business, urban planning, and project management, and that also helped me make that career transition successful. So the final stage, which was straight transition, I started applying for jobs when I started working on my dissertation. So that was somewhere in May. So this is another quick tip if you do not want to waste time. Like in my case, when I retired from the Navy, which was July 21, I started preparing for the Commonwealth Scholarship in my ninth year, and I started researching courses somewhere in my eighth year. So I was researching the courses. I knew that the whole scholarship process takes like a year. I did not want to waste time. So July 21 was my retirement, and September 21, I was in London. So I think planning things in a smarter way also helps in saving time. Of course, if you want to take a break, then it's completely your choice. But if you want to save on time, I think planning really matters. And the same thing happened with jobs. When I went into the dissertation mode, I knew that, after the dissertation, I would have to go back to India in September. So my job search had started somewhere in April, May. Again, LinkedIn has been my best friend throughout. So I started reaching out to companies there. Um, Austrade, I actually wasn't aware of Austrade as an organization when I left the Navy. So, of course, I did not have this in mind that I would go and I would work in international trade. But this came up, and then it so perfectly aligned with what I was doing because my role in Austrade is not about one domain. Again, because I'm a multi domain person and I have broad areas of interest. So, Austrade usually gives me an opportunity to work on different things, right from international relations between Australia and India. Then there is trade policy, which is new, which comes to my second point of continuous learning, that trade policy was not something that I knew, but I'm still learning about it. And it is a very interesting domain, so I'm growing there. But there are other things like policy, like international relations, like business development, and then project management. Again, the electives that I had taken, and then the core subject of business development, all of that I could project to my recruiter, Austrade, and then that is how I got the role. A lot of the times, and this is specifically for, I think, the Asian students here, I'm not sure about other countries, our course titles are very confusing to the recruiters, like whether it is Austrade or any Indian companies. If it is MSc Prosperity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, a lot of the times probably they would not know what exactly is being taught, right? But I would say it is more of an advantage than a disadvantage, because then you can actually tell them what you have studied. You can tailor it. You can tell them that, okay, this is what you need and this is what I've studied. Usually in India or in Asian countries, MBA is very separately recognized. But when you do masters in a very niche field, you actually have to market it correctly to the recruiter. Once you read a job description, you would actually have to spot, will I be able to do this? Ask yourself honestly, if this is the role, am I well equipped to deliver the role? Forget about the course, forget about your qualifications. If you think you can do it, then go ahead with applying for the course. And when you speak to it, when you speak to the HR, another good way of doing it is, when you see the opportunity, if you think that the expectations are different or something like an MBA is written, try reaching out to someone in that organization on LinkedIn. Ask that person that I have done this course, it is not an MBA probably, or not what is specified in the description, but I have the qualifications, or I've worked in so and so domain. It helps, because you would get some sort of a feedback from that person. Probably that person himself or herself will refer you in the system, in the process, if you are a fit candidate. So I think that approach really helped me. So marketing is very important, because most of the times, and this is what I personally faced, my recruiters were not aware of what exactly is being covered under prosperity, innovation and entrepreneurship. So I had to break it down for them and tell them that I have learned this, these are the internships that I've done, this is the project that I've undertaken. And that is how they were convinced, that is how people at Austrade were convinced that I'll be able to deliver the role. So that is something where the point of skill overlaps between sectors, you will have to find where is the overlap. So most of the times we look at very tailor made, like there are no tailor made job opportunities. Like sometimes if you're very lucky, you will get those opportunities. But if you're going for broader studies, like if you are studying, taking subjects which have like multiple domains, you will not have a tailored job opportunity. Probably you'll have to look broader, you will have to look at multiple organizations, look at the JD, look how it matches, like check how it matches with what you have studied, and then project it. And it is good to have combined that with your network. The now find somebody who has worked for that kind of an organization, and then ask that person how, if this suits, if this matches, and then go ahead with your application. That really gives you the edge. And I was able to convert Austrade as well as a good role in two other social entrepreneurship organizations following the same pattern. Austrade needed something different, the social entrepreneurship ventures needed something different. So every organization's need is also different, and probably preparing your CV for different kinds of roles is another topic in itself, and probably I can talk an hour extra about that, but I'm not going to cover that. But from this perspective, I would just like to say that you need to find the overlap and you need to convince your recruiter. So the onus is on you. It is your responsibility to convince that I have done these internships and therefore I'm fit for the role. Do not shy away from applying from the roles, and do not have these preconceived notions that this is probably not for me because there is an MBA written, or there is something written, or there is some specialization required. Just read the description and figure out for yourself if you are able to do the role or not. Um, Diversity, equity, and inclusion, just as I said, it was never my core role. Not in the Navy, not in Austrade, never a core subject, even at UCL. But all my projects that I had undertaken was out of genuine interest and passion. So at UCL, we undertook a connected innovation project, which was leading inclusive futures through tech. What we did was we studied how many women in the Camden area were joining tech firms. and then who were the how what was the percentage at the joining level, like at the hiring level, and then at the mid senior level, and then at the leadership level. So what we were trying to evaluate is whether women who have joined, whether all of them are reaching the mid senior level, whether all of them are reaching the leadership level. If not, what can be done in a better way to facilitate that sort of growth in the organization, the vertical growth. Now, I had no idea that I would be applying those things in my role at Austrade as DNI co-lead. So when I joined Austrade, of course, I my core role is trade, so I am director trade. But after a couple of months, I took up DNI co-lead, this role, and now in Austrade, we have implemented. I sort of implemented what I learned through that project at UCL. So we have our KPIs every month, and as a part of that KPI, we sort of have these graph where we have a percentage description of percentage ratio of men to women at every stage. Like at recruitment stage, at the lowermost level, what is the percentage? At the mid senior level, what is the percentage? At the leadership level, what is the percentage? And we try to maintain a ratio of 50 to 50, and we have improved a lot because we have started monitoring it. Again, one of the learnings from my time in the UK is what gets measured gets done, and therefore that was added to the KPI metrics of Austrade, and then that really helped in improving the gender ratios throughout the organization, which was very much appreciated by the senior leadership. Again, another initiatives like health, like what are the issues that women face and what kind of lectures would women want in the organizations, like health related, financial awareness related lectures, or whether it is sort of legal issues related lectures, like how do they take legal support, which legal action can they take if there is some sort of harassment at workplace. All of those, again, this was again something that I learned at UCL, that it is a bottom up approach. You have to understand from the women what they want and then deliver on that, rather than making your own program and not taking their inputs. So I again applied them, all of this at Austrade, and I think the results we got were very good. In fact, our team was awarded for all of these activities at Austrade. So, despite DNI not being a very core role, I think I've been able to follow that passion, and who knows, in future it may become a core role for me. My only suggestion or advice would be that if you are passionate about something like this, it may not be DNI, it may be sustainability, or it may be something else, and maybe you're not finding a role which is completely dedicated to that, you're doing something else. You can always find ways and means to follow what you like or your passion, and probably in the future you will have that opportunity to make the transition. So always keep it by your side so that you're able to work on things you are interested in. Don't limit yourself to just one thing, your core role. Open yourself up, and it will open you up to different opportunities. One of the opportunities was this UN Women led U20 gender dialogue. So this was led by United Nations India, and this was a project wherein they had discussions across these leaders, and I was one of them. So these women from different industries, they were taking inputs on how to create gender inclusive infrastructure for smart cities in India. A very interesting project. And again, despite me not being from DNI, because of all of these things that I did, I was chosen for that, and I could give in my inputs for this project, and I'm very proud of this project that we did together. So always stick to what you are interested in, your core role. Even if it is not allowing you to do that, find other avenues to stick to it, because you may find uh, more gates opening because of that. Coming to the challenges part, I think one of the key challenges was academia versus industry challenge, because 10 years into the service, and then you get 1 year in the UK where you have to learn academic writing, you have to learn how to read research papers and write dissertations, and that was all very new to me because I don't come from a research background. And then I knew that right after that I'll have to join industry. This may not be true for people who want to pursue PhD post scholarship, but in my case, I was very clear that I'll have to go back to industry. So initially, this was a huge challenge for me. Like I was trying to figure out how do I balance these things so that I pick up academic writing, I do good in my course, and I also get a job at the end of the course. And here are a few tips from my side, things that I figured out on my journey. So, first thing is your dissertation is very important. You kind of spent 3 to 4 months of your course on your dissertation, right? So make sure that that dissertation is aligned to what you want to do after the course. Because I wanted to go into industry, my dissertation was focused on women entrepreneurs and the kind of issues they faced during COVID-19 and how did they cope up with those issues. So I actually interviewed 20 women social entrepreneurs. I discussed with them how did they build their business, what issues did they have due to COVID, how did they cope up with it, were they able to cope up, have they revived their businesses now, and I did well. Like my dissertation, I got really good marks for my dissertation. That was one part of it. But the second part of it was I had built contacts throughout that industry. I had gained so much of practical knowledge about how social entrepreneurship works and how different challenges come up, because real world problems are very different from what you read in books sometimes. So all of that discussion, and then of course the network, the practical knowledge that I gained, um, and I think a combination of all of those things made that pathway very clear. So it actually helped me even in my interview with Austrade. When I told them, because in Austrade also we deal with a lot of MSMEs, right? Micro, small, medium enterprises. We help them navigate the business setups. So when I told them, that my dissertation sort of had this kind of an element where I interviewed women who owned MSMEs, and then I understood what impacted their journeys and what were the major challenges they faced during COVID, they were very happy with that. So this dissertation is an academic thing, but you can also use it as a tool to navigate industry. So very smartly, if you make that decision of choosing a topic or a subject that covers both sides, then it would really help you. Cultural differences, I think that is a problem with anyone who would come for the first time to an international country and sort of have an international study experience. So I had not studied abroad, I had not lived abroad, I had traveled abroad, but that was only for around a week or two. So this was the first time in UK, and UK being the melting pot of cultures, there was so much to learn from people. And in this photograph you can actually see my group, and we did this project Fascination, which was basically again a social entrepreneurship venture, which on based on textile waste management. So it was to address the textile waste management issue, and we had people from 4 nationalities in that group. So it added so much more perspective to how we worked and the kind of solutions that we came up with. And that again was one of the things that helped me get my job, because at Austrade, again, it is an international organization. You will have to you like I work with Australians on a day to day basis. So I think that international exposure really helps. Navigating cultural differences initially is a challenge, but once you know that people may have different perspectives, they are not right or wrong, and they have their own sort of experiences because of which they believe something. I think that respect comes in, that trust comes in, and then you develop that empathy for the people that come from different cultural backgrounds. So that was another thing that helped me. Uncertainty in career pathways, of course, I was very uncertain because defense is a very niche field. So I don't think everybody faces that kind of uncertainty. For me, it was very high because I knew I had to go somewhere else, but I was not very sure. I was interested in a lot of fields. Social entrepreneurship, yes, was my first go, but again, I took a very broad approach to things. I did not focus on one specific niche. I did not really say, okay, I want to go from one point A to point B. Like, this is my career in defense. I want to go to international trade. And now I have to just navigate from here to there. I kept myself open, and then I thought that I'll keep my options open, whether it is urban planning, whether it is project management, whether it's business, whether it is simple entrepreneurship. I tried as many things as I could. I interacted with as many people as I could, and then that helped me. That opened a lot of doors. So Austrade was one opportunity, and yes, I finalized on it because that was most suitable for me at that stage. But then I also got a lot of other opportunities, and that happened because I was open to all of that, and I had broadened my scope of work. I had developed expertise in multiple fields. Also, another point in that academia and industry point is internships. So internships are really very important. In our course, there was an organization called Humans to Humans. So what that organization does is they sort of they sort of pick students from universities and then assign them social entrepreneurship ventures. They sort of team you up with these social entrepreneurs, and you end up developing business plans for them. So I was working with a person with a green construction startup, which is Melissa Imbo in South Africa. And that gave me a very fresh perspective. Again, something that I had not read in research papers, I had not read in books. But when I spoke to the person, I actually understood what are the problems on ground, and what are the kind of things, inputs that he would need from me. So again, internships have a lot of value, and even on your CV, like, it means a lot for the recruiter to see an internship in that area. For me at Austria, defense background definitely helped because I had a government background and they wanted somebody from the government, but also business development internship helped me position myself as a very good candidate for the role. So internships are always very important. Coming to the last slide, prioritize skill development. That was my major learning. And I'll give you another example from my journey. So, when we were doing that project Fascination, the previous slide had that photograph of me with my group. I intentionally took up finance as the role in the group. Like, when we were making a pitch for Fascination, I think I put my hand up and I said that I'll do finance. I did not know how which aspects of finance should come into a pitch. Like, when you're pitching for a social entrepreneurship project, how do you calculate ROI? How do you convince the investor? And but I took it up because I knew that finance is important. Like, it is going to be important even in future when I go to the industry. So it was my way of upskilling myself. It was not a part of my course. It was not a part of my elective. I decided to pick it up myself because I sort of saw the value in it. And the reason why I realized finance was important was because I was working with Melissa Embo. So the internship that I was talking about, that is the place where I realized that, you need to be very clear about finances. Otherwise, the social entrepreneurship venture will not be able to raise funds, right? So from there, I sort of understood that it is very important to have that financial knowledge, and I need to build my knowledge in that domain. So by that time, I did not have the option to go for another elective or do something else. So all I decided to do was take the finance role in my projects. So wherever there was a group project, I would just put my hand up and I would say I'll take care of the financial part of it. And then I educated myself. I discussed with my colleagues, people who knew finance, people, my seniors, my juniors. I interacted with a lot of people and sort developed my expertise that way in finance. So not that I'm an expert now because I've not really studied it as an elective, but I did gain a lot of knowledge that way. Embracing a global perspective always helps. Embracing a global holistic viewpoint, again, because if you intend to work for a global organization like UN or World Bank or any embassy, any trade organization, I think this will give you those bonus points. Being in UK, being interacting with so many people from different nationalities, understanding that people come from different backgrounds, that definitely helps. Resilience and flexibility, again, to the same point that I mentioned before, career transition is not just one step. Like, you may see my transition as like navy to international trade, but the journey doesn't stop at international trade. Like, you evolve as a person, and especially in today's day and age, we can't stop at one career. You know that the world is evolving and you also need to evolve. So you need to develop skills, and you need to, probably your role itself will get evolved, right? So with AI and with machine learning and with these several other things coming in, the world is rapidly changing. So career transition is not just a one time affair, it will continue to happen. And in order to survive it, in order to ace it, you need to be flexible and resilient. Resilience will come in when you continue to take up challenges, when you continue to expose yourself to newer projects, to newer domains, and continue to learn and grow. Flexibility is not looking at just one role or one kind of job, like being open to different kinds of things. Like, again, I'll reiterate that you are in job A, you want to go to job B. You can't just keep waiting for that job B. There will be a job C, which will be a corollary path. So probably you'll have to look at something similar. You have to go there. Maybe during your time at job C, you may find another job D, and you may develop a new interest. So we as humans also involve, and career transition is probably a continuous thing. It's not just a one time thing. Of course, for me, this is a huge leap from Navy to international trade, but I'm sure that even in my case, it will keep changing. If it is trade in manufacturing, space, and aerospace today, it might be trade in net zero, green economy, and all of these things tomorrow. I may switch over to sustainability after that, depending on whatever is the need, depending on my evolving interests. So it is very important to be resilient, to be flexible, and to be open to learning new things in life. um, with that, I think I'll end my talk. um, yeah.
Amazing. That was such a brilliant webinar, Vidisha. And thank you so much for sharing your career journey with us and also for sharing valuable insights and tips with us based on your experience. I'm sure current scholars as well as alumni in attendance will have found this useful. Um, I also loved how you stressed on keeping an open mind and being open to opportunities while focusing on your core interest. So yeah, thank you so much for this brilliant presentation. If you are ready, is it too soon to start with the Q&A session?
I'm ready. I'm happy to take on questions.
Perfect. I would like to encourage our attendees to send in your questions via the chat box. In the meanwhile, I would like to thank all those who have sent in your questions via the registration forms. I will raise some of these questions now during the Q&A session, and then, of course, I will also have a look at the questions that come in the chat box. We already have questions coming in, so please do continue sending your questions in the chat box. Um, so the first question, Disha, is what were some of the reasons to join the Navy? How did you recognize your potential for the career in international trade after your career in the Navy? And of course, you have covered some of this in the webinar, so I do appreciate if you would briefly like to, address this question. Um, but in the meantime, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced during this transition?
Um, okay, so the first one, the motivation to
Yes.
join services, I think I'll start with that. So I come from an armed forces background. My father served in the Indian Army, so I was already always in awe of his uniform. Like every day morning as a kid, I had seen my father in uniform, and that uniform holds a lot of value for me. Even today, when people ask me what is the one thing that you miss the most about not being in service, I think I'll say that's the uniform, because it there's so much of pride and so much of honor that comes with the uniform. So I think that was it for me. But that's it again. My father always told me that the service selection board, when I explained to all of you, it is a personality fit test. So my father said that, you should go for this test for those 5 days, let them evaluate you. If you make it, then you are cut out for the forces. If you're not, then probably it's best that you pursue something else. Like there's nothing wrong or right about it. So I just went for that test, and I think I was very happy that I succeeded in the first attempt, and I got selected and recommended by the board. So that was it, joining the forces. International trade, I actually did not have that in mind when I was planning my transition journey. But when this vacancy came up, when I saw it on LinkedIn, so my approach was to first go to the, again, because I've done a master's in prosperity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I come from the Indian Navy. I read the job description, And I thought I can perfectly deliver on that, because they wanted someone with a government background, with good connections, who knows how the Indian government setup works, still has international exposure. So I ticked all the boxes, but I was not sure about the degree, about all of these things, all of these doubts that I spoke about. So I reached out to one of the connections on LinkedIn, and then I sort of reached out to that person working in Australia, and I told, okay, I'm from the Navy and this is my experience, this is what I've done, and I would really like to apply for this job. What do you think? I just wanted to know your perspective on it. And then he said, you are a fantastic candidate. So probably that was my first, like, I knew that I have a good shot at the job because I had already approached this person. And then I ended up applying. Of course, it took 4 months for the process to happen, multiple interviews and things, but I cracked it. And I still thank that one person who I reached out to who was in Australia at that point. So that is why I probably tell people that, reach out to someone in the organization and don't shy away from applying from jobs. Just read the JD and decide for yourself. If you can do it, probably just go ahead and apply for it.
That's a great advice, building that connection that is so important, especially on professional platforms such as LinkedIn. Um, Speaking of your Commonwealth scholarship experience, would you like to share your best experience during the scholarship? And is there anything you would have done differently if you were to have this experience again?
I think the best part of the Commonwealth journey was to meet all the Commonwealth scholars. And initially, I was skeptical because that time COVID was just coming to an end and we were all in a hybrid format. So I think the first get together sort of got delayed by a couple of months. But then it did eventually happen in February. I think the CSE Connect and Collaborate. And that is when we could actually see, like, till then, the numbers were only on screen and paper, but that is when we actually saw this huge hall full of so many scholars from so many domains, and then there were alumni who were doing great fantastic jobs. And that was, I think, the highlight. And also there was this last get together. I think this is the photograph which was at the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. So firstly, I think being at the FCDO, because I was reading about FCDO at so many forums and you hear about it. Finally, we were there at that square. And then again, it just shows in the picture, like, all that diversity, so many people. There was a board during the event where all of us were writing our goals for the next 10 years or 15 years. And it was so good to see those visions on the board, like, very ambitious. And it was really nice. That part was really nice. Apart from that, I think I really explored. I love exploring places, and I'm a very avid traveler. So there was no weekend in London where I did not explore a place, like right from Bath to York to, I think, every weekend. People who were with me in my batch know this, that I have been a great explorer and I wouldn't have done it any other way. I think I made the most of my time there. Very satisfied with what I did in that 1 year. And I think that is my only advice to everybody who's going for the scholarship this year or already there. I think make the most of your time, not just the academic part, but also the cultural part of London and UK. Experience it, explore as much as you can.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And I do remember the board and all our scholars adding their notes on that board. So thank you for refreshing that memory. That was quite wonderful. Um, all right, so moving on to a question from the chat box. So the question is, how was it to cope with your studies, or rather balance your studies and have a work-life balance in terms of the professional as well as personal front, being a female for the years post scholarship? So how was it to balance your work life back home once you returned after your scholarship?
Luckily, because I joined Austrade, my work-life balance improved, because in the Navy, usually you don't have a perfect setup. It's not a 9 to 5 job, and I had these night duties in the Navy, and you could get a call anywhere in the middle of the night. And I'm married to a submariner, so I'm very much still a part of the fraternity. My husband is still serving in the Navy. Um, after Navy, right now at Austrade, it's a very travel heavy job because I need to interact with so many clients and customers. And then again, there was this. I think there is this slide here, which is in the beginning. This one, which is the Avalon Air Show in Melbourne. So usually I travel for exhibitions and expos because my job is to facilitate trade relations between the two nations. So wherever there is a mega show like Aero India or Avalon in Melbourne or Def Expo or sort of Singapore Air Show, Bangalore Space Expo, all of these events. So there is a lot of travel involved. I think the key is to being a bit disciplined in your routine activities, like chalk out a bit of time for the things which are important to you. So I am an early riser. My way of doing that is, before the world wakes up, like at 5 around, I wake up at 5 every day. So probably when you wake up, you take a little bit of effort for the physical part of things. I think health is very important for each one of us. So first is health, and then second comes a little bit of reading and upskilling. Even though you've got your dream job, I think upskilling should never stop. So a little bit of reading there, developing your core skills, developing your tech skills. I think those are the things I think you should set aside some time. I wouldn't be able to comment on family and other things because I don't have kids yet. So probably that, hats off to the moms who sort of juggle kids and jobs and everything else. I in my perspective or in my life, I just look after my health. As of now, it's my health, my upskilling part of it. Family is, I travel to Pune every once in a while where my family is based. So every 3 months I meet my parents who are based in a different city, and that is how I balance things. I think a bit of discipline and routine helps in getting through. The more, I think, once you commit your time to those specific activities, work would expand and fill up all the time. If you don't, allocate certain time slots for the things you really want to do, then work will expand and fill up all the time slots, and then you would not have any time. This goes even for the social commitments. I think right in the beginning of the week, I block my time that I would do this and this, and then with the rest of the time I would just complete my work. Like I would, and same happened even in the case of my dissertation. Like I had a target that I would go to a particular city or I would do a trip, so I'll have to complete this much percentage by this time, and then I would have that incentive ahead of me that probably I'll complete this and then go for the trip. So it works for me, may not work for everyone, but these are my tips and tricks of how to get things done.
So many more tips coming from you, Bidisha. Thank you for sharing. Um, well, the next question, if you have not already covered in your presentation or during the Q&A, if you would like to add more to it, please feel free to. The question is, what key advice will you give someone who wants to jump into a new career?
I think, practically speaking, don't aim to jump into a new career directly. Like you will have to go through some channel. Um, for example, if I want to get into the field of sustainability, just like I just gave an example, that if I want to work in the field of sustainability, I'm right now in international trade and I'm dealing with aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and space. So I think gradually taking steps, if I don't go for higher education, like that is one channel where people do a master's in that particular field and then do a transition, that is one way of doing it. But if you don't want to go for higher studies, I think the approach that I would take is probably shift my sectors. Like I would still be in international trade, shift my sectors and move to green economy sectors. I would probably raise that with my management that I am interested in this particular sector, and I would like to do that along with my present sectors, or if possible, I would like to exchange one or two of the sectors. That is how I gain expertise and then gradually move. So my approach in life has always been like that. Like it's not jumping from A to Z. It's like you have to go through a sequence, through small little changes, and that way you will be comfortable and you'll also be able to leverage your previous experience. Otherwise, what will happen is if you start from the scratch in career B, then you've lost those many years. Like right now, when I've joined Austrade, they value those 10 years in the Navy. They have counted that in my work experience. But that is why I've joined at director level. But had I just joined as a new person in a new field, I've lost those 10 years in that. So I think you need to be very careful about choosing in which direction you're going. Like those steps needs to be clear.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. Um, I am conscious of time, but I also have another question I've just spotted in the chat box. Um, are there any trade-offs between international trade and the environment? And how can these be managed to benefit each other?
So we do have, now that I was talking about sustainability, net zero is a joint target for both India and Australia. So in fact, in our KPIs, when we project the amount of trade deals that happen, we have to reflect how many trade deals come under the net zero category, like the green economy category, which includes e-vehicles, e-mobility, all of these things, solar panels, the wind, renewable energy projects, and all of that. So I think the accountability is gradually being increased. Like we have our regular targets, but we do have our net zero targets as well. So that is not just for the government, but also for the trade agencies, for every government agency. And I think those steps are actually very practical, because we at our level also monitor how many deals are aligned with net zero, how many deals are not aligned, and sort of we have a very clear idea, and that helps us improve the figures. Again, the same I think development principle, that what gets measured will get changed or will get done easily, because you will know where you are tracking. So again, this whole feed, like from the Australian High Commission, at least I can say that we give figures at the end of the year, whatever trade deals have happened, whatever projects that we have facilitated. There are two metrics. One is women led companies, how many women led companies have we supported, that is another figure that we report. And second is the green economy, how many companies which are aligned with the net zero initiative have we supported. So these are two parameters which are reported every time. So that is how we take care of improving that figure year on year.
Thank you so much. And I think with this, we come to an end of the Q&A session. Um, The chat box is filled with wonderful messages and feedback for your presentation. Everyone has enjoyed your presentation. Thank you so much. We also have an expression of interest to join the Indian Navy from a scholar or alumnus from India. Please do feel free to connect with Bidisha. You can note down her LinkedIn profile details on the screen. It's Lieutenant Commander Bidisha Pandey. Please feel free to connect with her if you have any questions, if you would like to just connect with her, with a fellow Commonwealth alumnus. Please feel free to get in touch via LinkedIn. Thank you again, Bidisha. And before we end this session, would you like to say a few words before we close the webinar?
Nothing much. Actually, I've spoken a lot, I think more than 45 to 50 minutes, but it's an honor. Just as I said, I have attended these sessions previously, and I tried to make this session as practical as possible, because I know what are the problems that I faced, and the fellow scholars will face once they come back to India, or probably the alumni are facing. And I tried to address all of those issues. If there's any way that I can help you all, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll be very happy to help, and help even with the CV review or anything that you need. Even if you need a bit of career guidance and feeling a bit confused, I have been there. I don't think anybody was as confused as me, because from defense, I was completely open to doing anything and everything. So I really had so many roads to pursue. But then out of that, I did figure out where I want to go. And finally, I'm very happy with where I am. So happy to have a chat with whoever would like my opinion or my suggestions on anything. Thank you.